Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Pat Good. She's an amazing storyteller, and she tells stories that inspire people. Her incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as you saw in that intro, I was a TV news guy for 25 years, and unfortunately, so many of the stories that I was telling were negative. They were sad. They were depressing. And so somebody has to tell the good news stories out there, and that's Pat Good. Your name says it all. Pat Good. You're the good news lady. So, Pat, tell us how this began for you. When did you start writing?
Well, I actually began many years ago when I was 22 years old, and I was given a prognosis of not living very long because I got melanoma cancer and it had gone to my lymph system. And they said at 22, you won't see your 23rd birthday. So I knew I had very little time left. And so I decided I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. And I have been a volunteer with the March of Dimes, and it was my great passion. So I went to work for them. And I lived my passion, and obviously, I've lived through a lot more birthdays.
All right, give us an update on your health. Everything good?
Everything's great. Everything's great.
Amazing. But it did put you on a path where every moment is precious, and so you started telling amazing stories. We're going to pull up her website. And as we scroll on the website, Pat, you write about so many different things, but the commonality is every story that you tackle is inspirational, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I think there's a light inside of me, and I think I got that when I was spared my life, and I knew that I had to spend my life doing for others, and in the course of doing that, I think that I learned a way to be positive in lieu of whatever happened to me. And at 22, that was a very hard thing to be told, that I wasn't going to see my 23rd birthday. So I decided that it was all about my attitude and what I was going to do with my life and finding my purpose. And all of that was a joyful journey. Some of my stories are hard to tell. And for people who watch and learn from my stories, I think you'll see that I've had some challenges in my life, but I got through them and I learned a great deal from each and every one of them.
And you're working on a book called Good Stories That Light the Way. I can't wait for it to come out. But one of your more popular stories is about the dress. And we're gonna put this on the screen so you can appreciate this. So tell us about the dress.
When I was 22 and I was given that prognosis, I made myself a promise that if I lived 10 years, I'd go to Paris, France, and celebrate my 32nd birthday. So on the way to Paris, I stopped in London, and I bought this dress in Harrods in London. And I wore the dress on a dinner cruise down the Seine River. And you can hear all about the story. It's up on my website right now. But it's an incredible story of my 32nd birthday. It's probably my favorite birthday of all.
Well, and let's give a little bit of it away, because I listened to one of your podcasts. She's on a lot of podcasts, and there was a moment when you were dining alone, and it was kind of a magical dinner.
Yes, I made a reservation for one, so they gave me a table for one. And I thought to myself, well, if that be the case, I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. And the maitre d' had come to escort me onto the boat. And when he did, everybody got the impression that I must be a celebrity or somebody famous. And so people started coming over to my table and taking pictures of me. And I thought, well, that's funny. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll be a woman of mystery, and they'll just let them take pictures of me all night. And so that happened. And then later, when we were passing by Notre Dame, the bells went off. And at that particular moment, all of the waiters came up with this beautiful birthday cake with candles all aglow. And I thought to myself, wherever they take that cake, I'll say to myself, and happy birthday to me. But they brought the cake to my table. And I just couldn't believe it. And everybody started singing happy birthday in several different languages. And one man from every table came over and kissed my hand and wished me well for my birthday. So the whole boat started to celebrate my 32nd birthday with me.
That's incredible. And I love it that you brought the dress. So
I brought the dress.
Okay, so let's hold it up. So beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? All the ruffles.
And I remember
gorgeous.
in this podcast you said that it was not an inexpensive dress. So
No.
you actually had to really commit to this dress.
I did.
But
I
it's
did.
still so precious.
Oh, it
you
is.
preserve it, and
Yes.
that's so beautiful.
I say in my story, every woman has a special dress. It's usually their wedding dress, but this is my special dress.
That's so beautiful. I want to talk about your sisterhood because when I was on your Facebook page, I saw two pictures back to back. Let's start with the younger picture.
Yes.
All right, so tell us about the sisters.
My sisters and I have always been very, very close. Starting from the left of that picture, that's Janet, and then Pam is next. I'm at the tall one, and my sister Kathy is the oldest of us. She's on the right.
Okay, so then you recreated this picture.
Yes.
Are you in the same order?
We're in the same order. Years later, we went to, Padre Island, and we decided, hey, let's pose the same way we did when we were children. And so we did
What
that.
kind of inspiration do you get from your sisters?
Oh, so much. We're very, very close. And my mother said to us, don't ever get crossways with your sisters because one day you're going to need them. And boy, is that true. I really have needed my sisters. And they've given me so much love and support that's why I'm able to do these stories, is that they support me 100%.
All right, there's a very special captain. I'm going to call him the captain of your heart, like the old song. Captain Crozier. Tell us about Captain Crozier.
Captain Crozier was the captain of the USS Theodore Roosevelt when COVID broke. And many of his sailors were going into the sick bay, and he wanted to take the ship out of service and get his people to safety and off the boat. And so he fought very hard for that. And you probably remember there were stories about Captain Crozier for months. But Big Navy didn't agree with that. They wanted the boat to stay in service. But he fought for that. He made the decision to go to Guam and get hotel rooms for them so that they'd be safe, those who didn't get COVID. And so they took him off the boat. And I was walking through my living room one day, and I saw on the television this story running, and I saw this officer leaving his ship, and they were singing his name. And I thought, what is this story about? And I went out on the internet and I found a Facebook page called Standing Up for Captain Crozier. I got involved and I became an administrator on that site. And we fought hard to try to get him back on the boat. It did not play out that way, but as Captain Crozier would say, if he knew then what he knows now, he would make the same decision. He's an American hero, and he is a good friend of mine now. He wrote me after he was quarantined in Guam. He got COVID, and he was there for a month. And he wrote me a letter saying that the inspiration that I had put on the site, he had read, and it had helped him through his darkest days.
And he actually has a passage in his book. Why don't you hold up the book and please read that passage?
This is his book, and you can find it on Amazon.com. It's Surf When You Can, and it's his whole story about his journey in the Navy. But I saved up a lot of research, two other women and I, and he made an acknowledgement in this book. He calls us the Holy Cow Ladies because when he got the research, he couldn't believe how much we'd sent him. And so he said, "Holy cow, I didn't know what I was getting, but this was like a congressional investigation." So he was very pleased with the research that we gave him. So in the acknowledgement, I'll read to you from it. It says, "To the Holy Cow Ladies, Pat, Sandra, and Kristen, who provided incredible support and research over the last 2 years, keeping track of world and Navy events better than most collegiate historians could ever hope to do."
When you read that for the first time, you must have gotten chills.
I did get chills. I did get chills. He called me one day and said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I wrote the book," because we were always after him to write a book. We thought his life in the Navy was so special, and that the way he took care of his sailors was extra special. So we wanted the world to know that, and he wrote the book, and we were so pleased. And he's a very good friend. He and Mary are good friends of mine, and I hope you'll read this book because it is very inspirational. I'm going to give it to you.
Oh my goodness!
You get a
I will
copy.
treasure it. Captain Crozier, you should be very proud. She's telling the good stories even now. You brought cookies, so
I did.
explain the cookies.
Okay, these cookies have a story, and we'll be publishing that story soon on my website. When COVID hit, I was told by my doctors, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and they told me, whatever you do, stay away from hospitals, Pat. If you break your leg, wrap it up and come to my office. But one day I took a medication that apparently didn't go well with the medications I was on, and I fainted, and I hit my head on the vanity, and I knocked myself out. My husband came home for lunch, and he found me unresponsive, and he took me to the nearest dock in the box.
Yeah.
I woke up on a gurney, and I said, "Where am I?" And they said, "Well, we're transporting you to the downtown Methodist Hospital." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, you've had a stroke and you have COVID." And I just laughed. I thought, that I must be dreaming this, like that
Right,
can't be. I
right.
can't have COVID because I'm very susceptible to that at the time. And all my doctors told me that I probably would die if I got COVID. So I conked out again. I woke up, and they had transported me to Methodist Hospital downtown. But when they called and said I had COVID and I had a stroke, they sent me right up to the COVID ICU unit.
Wow.
So I wake up in the COVID ICU unit, and the nurses walked in, and they had these giant suits on, and I started laughing. And the nurses came over and said, "Mrs. Good, why are you laughing?" And I said, "Because when I wake up from this nightmare and tell my husband, he won't believe it." They said, "Mrs. Good, this isn't a nightmare. This is really happening." I went, "Sure, I knew you'd say that." And then I conked out again. So the next time I wake up, they said, "Miss Good, we have good news. You don't have COVID and you haven't had a stroke." I said, "Duh, I know that. I know that." And I said, "So when can I go home?" Because no one was allowed in to the unit at the time. And they said, "Well, that's the bad news. You've been exposed. So we're going to have to keep you and watch you for a few days." So in those few days, I really had a front row seat to the COVID war. And I have never seen nursing at its best the way I saw it this time in my life. I was the only patient who didn't have a ventilator. And so I asked them to come in and tell me their stories. And I watched these wonderful nurses as they would take their phones into the patient so that the patient's family could say goodbye. And the bodies were coming so quickly out of the rooms because they would get them and they would die very quickly, as you really know. Mm-hmm. And they would stack the bodies up on gurneys outside my room. And I would watch that because the morgue was already full. And so I watched all the bodies being, stacked up in the hallways. And I watched them running from one room to another so that they could give a phone last goodbye to each of those families. I was so impressed with that. After I did get out of the hospital, I'm a baker, and so I started baking cookies for them every Wednesday. And then I realized, there are other hospitals in San Antonio that are doing the same thing. So I found out there were 13 hospitals. I went to my church and to ask if they could help. And they said, "Well, we're at lockdown, so I don't know what you think we're going to do." But the next day, a teacher from Clark High School next door came in and said, "We have some special needs kids who need to learn a skill. Do you have anything they could do?" And she said, "You think they'd like to bake cookies?" And he said, yes. And so with these wonderful students and with the church's kitchen, we baked cookies for all of the COVID ICU nurses for a year.
Wow.
For a year.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so these are some of the cookies that I baked. We did thousands of them, but
well, and I applaud you. And yes, I'm going to share this with my team if you'll allow us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I applaud you because I remember that time, and these are hardworking men and women who also had families that they needed to care for, and they were putting their own lives in jeopardy to take care of us. So
they were, and the stories they told me were stories they couldn't even go home and tell their families because a lot of them were staying in hotel rooms, and they didn't want to expose their own families to COVID at that time. So I wanted to hear the stories. I had been a development officer for 2 hospices, and I knew how much it meant to our nurses for someone just to listen to them. So if you know any nurses out there that went through COVID, and thank them, first of all, for staying in nursing, but ask them to tell you their stories.
Well, you and I have a mutual friend, Jeff Brady, legendary anchor in Dallas and San Antonio. And
yes.
He has been encouraging you to plow through and continue to write this book. So Good Stories That Light the Way. Tell us what we can expect.
Well, I have 33 stories, and I'm still writing. So there'll be more to come. But it's all stories about things that I did in my professional life as well as my personal life. And some of them are funny stories. I think that you're going to find the dress kind of funny when you read it. It's already out there on my webpage. Yeah. And I've got more to come. I have one that's going to be posted. We're going to post every week on Mondays at 10 o'clock. I'll be posting a new story. But one that's going up next week is called The Promise, and it's about a hospice patient, how I helped her in the end in a very unusual way. So there are stories of my personal life, there are stories of my work life, there are stories of me as a volunteer, the stories of my journey to this point in life. And I really kind of think that I lived those stories so that I could share them with the world now. I kind of think this is a dark time for us all. And if I can inspire anybody, I hope that it'll inspire you to carry on no matter what. Even if you are like me and you have challenges in your life, you can get through them. And I hope that I inspire you to do that.
Well, one of the things that impresses me is that some people could find themselves in a hospital and think, woe is me, and you instantly started looking for the stories.
Yes.
What stories can I tell from this experience? And had you not had that incident, you wouldn't have met these nurses. You wouldn't have had this, movement of cookies. And so you always kind of look for the best, don't you?
I do. My husband once said, I was going in for back surgery, and I said to him, how do you think I'm going to do? And he said, oh, you'll do all right because you got a great attitude. I said, that's like telling an ugly girl, well, you have a good personality. But he's right. I think it's all about attitude, about whatever challenges you go through or what you see others going through, is to try to find a way forward. My mother used to say to me while I was working, and I'd have some kind of business problem, like raising money is not an easy thing to do. And I'd come home and I'd say, oh, Mom, I don't know how I'm going to do that. She would always say to me, Pat, I know you'll find a way. That's all she would say. And I would.
Pat, we've got about a minute left. So give encouragement to the person who is out there and, their situation isn't ideal. Give them some words of wisdom to look for the positive in every situation.
I think every life is here for a reason, and you have to find your own journey. I found mine, and it gave me great peace. And I think you can find yours too. I hope that you're inspired by what my life has brought me. And I hope that one day you'll be sitting here with Jeff too, telling your stories.
Thank you. Well, I think she has the perfect recipe for a successful life. Always look for the stories that light the way. The great Pat Good, we're going to end with her website so you can get in touch with her. It's patgoodstories.com. Pat Good, thanks for sharing your words and your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, that's it for now. We'll see you next time.